kicking it off with the African Continental Free Trade Area as the business partners and women in business discuss on its implementation. As the business partners and women in business have discussed the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, as UNDP recognizes trade as a means of implementing the Sustainable Development Goals and Agenda. The African Continental Free Trade Area is projected to raise Africa's income by 7% and at least lift 30 million people out of extreme poverty and lift 68 million people out of moderate poverty by 2035.
Some traders and exporters for a long time have faced trading challenges while trading along the African Community bloc. This has as well limited their reach to their other desirable markets.
My goods does not come to Kampala. What I produce, I sell within northern Uganda. Then it goes to southern Sudan. Because one thing, Sudan finds that the transport cost, my factory reduces it completely. Than somebody coming, even if Kakira is cheaper, but I'll be cheaper on the cost of transport. Where I am, again, I am close to Congo. But the problem we are having, okay, Congo and to take to that is not a problem. But you see, to go to Kenya also with my factory is also a very viable area. Why? All the goods which are going to Sudan come by road. When they come by road, now they are going empty. It is cheaper for them to get with a cargo. But Kenya does not allow. So now, for us to do big things, because we want now a bigger market than our own local market, first this has to be agreed.
Elisha Atfa, the resident representative UNDP, highlights on the role of the United Nations Development Programme towards the African Continental Free Trade Area.
Women business associations, civil society organizations, and relevant stakeholders in the process. And so our approach as a United Nations family is to foster platforms, and I'm glad my colleague Adekemi is here to show that solidarity that we are in this together, is to foster platforms where women in business voice their concern, their needs, their interests, and collectively co-create solutions through networking, experience sharing, and peer-to-peer learning. These platforms also afford women the forum to advocate for their priority issues to be heard by policymakers in government.
Joy Kategekwa, strategy advisor UNDP, stresses optimism with African Continental Free Area among the business community, which in turn triggers unanswered questions as partners continue to advocate for effective trade in African countries.
How do we get you producing X ahead? And how do we push a responsive strategy in that way? And so, knowing the exporters, engaging in export development, dealing with issues of financing and infrastructure, understanding tailor-made, market orientation programs. How do you negotiate your contracts? How do you meet the standards? How do you enter the market? Do you go there alone? Do you go in a joint venture? How do you increase reach through digital marketplaces? How do we push for the enabling environments? Because the enabling environments is really the regulations as a stimulus. And also understanding the tools that have been created to support implementation of the AfCFTA. The Afro-Exim Bank has what we call the payments and settlement system, where you can export in Uganda shillings and someone can pay you in Naira, for example. So it cuts out the intermediary and the 5 billion that Africa pays every year in meeting those costs of interbank sort of exchanges. And then how do we integrate the AfCFTA into this national, you talked about NDP3. Is it there? Can it get there? What needs to be done? What are the coalitions of women and how do they get ahead? How do we ensure that this trade facilitation is not only at the border, but is really about facilitating production for export? How do we pay special attention to informality? Because we also know it's a big part of the women engaged. And of course, there's something down there about the partnerships, but I won't go through it because you are in here. All to say, the AfCFTA can work. The AfCFTA can change the game. We're on the verge of transforming not only Africa, but rewriting our history. We can't afford to fail on this one. And women must stand up, galvanize, push, demand, and make it happen.
With the implementation success, it will be the greatest African trade solution, traders say. More still, Kategeko advises on the implementation process.
If this happens, it is the biggest thing Africa will have done for itself, because we have chunks and chunks of land which is unutilized. We have the cheapest labor to do. So anything we do, our cost of production can be lower and will be competitive. I'm happy that Mutaunga, you are here. Push. The biggest is regulations. Talk to the different countries to tell. Because I see also in Kenya, what they do normally, women and that, they come and do small factories where you can come together. Then you bring, like, let's say soya beans or what, you do some packing, and it adds value, and it is being exported. Still with that, we'll still need the government to help on the infrastructure, to look at the cost of financing, because these are the things which are making the cost of production to be high.
What is new? What is new in this exchange that's happening? Because as I said, we have things that have happened before, but what is new in terms of tariffs and services offers? Where are the opportunities for beneficiation? Because we're coming from a base where the exports are commodities. What is the opportunity for value addition and beneficiation? What are the areas where we see African innovation to meet African needs? Particularly important given what we know now with COVID. Where are the enablers of efficiency and transformation? How can we future-proof, seeing what we've seen with COVID, and what are the implications?
Government focuses on stimulus production amidst the available markets. Emmanuel Mutahunga is the Commissioner for External Trade at the Ministry of Trade, Industries and Cooperatives. Trade still remains one of the ways to mitigate sustainable development among African countries, especially if mitigated on well. Rita Cabanyoro, Smart 20.